If you are stuck in that place where you're in a job that you really don't like, you wish you could be moving forward, but you just have no idea how to actually do that, then you're in the right place. We're going to go through 5 different steps for how you can actually start moving, get out of this job that you hate and into something that is much more fulfilling for you. I work with a lot of people who are passionate, they are motivated, they want a career that is really fulfilling to them. They feel like they're working really, really hard and kind of spinning their wheels, but they are not making any progress or getting any clarity towards what they actually want. So that is what we're going to address today. Now, I wanted to start by kind of acknowledging that if this is you, it's not like you're the only person going through this. Over 50% of people in the US supposedly feel like this. 50% of people in the US are disengaged in their job. They don't want to be in their job. And I think that's a real problem. You spend about 40 hours a week at your job. You spend most of your time awake at your job. You spend more time in your job than you do with family and friends or doing hobbies. And so if that job is something that you don't enjoy, in fact, you actively dislike, you want to take a moment to think about how that's actually impacting your life. And because I, in particular, work with a lot of neurodivergent clients, I found that while finding a career that can feel fulfilling is difficult for anyone, for folks who are neurodivergent, it can be particularly difficult because at the same time as going through just all these normal career challenges that everyone else goes through, as a neurodivergent person, you might come with a couple additional specific criteria. Neurodivergent folks, for us, there might be careers that just really don't work for us, where our skills and what we find challenging really don't fit a lot of roles. So sometimes the roles that do fit us are a little bit fewer than the average person. So if that is you, what do you do about it? This is what we're going to look into now. So I'm going to give you a really concise 5-step process to help you move out of this place where you are stuck, where you want to be in a different career, but you just don't know how to do it. So let's start with step 1. So step 1, and this might sound a little bit funny, is to just notice that what is happening right now isn't actually working, and to really let it be true that something needs to change. So many people get stuck kind of denying themselves the reality that actually things aren't working. They keep on kind of telling themselves like, oh, well, maybe this isn't too bad. Oh, I don't know. I guess I could stay here for a little bit longer. And when you do that, you don't allow yourself to discover what could lie beyond that. There's a lot of reasons why we do this, and the biggest one is because change is scary and our human brains want to mitigate risk. So a change, just kind of by its nature, is going to be a bit risky because it's something we haven't done yet. And so naturally our brains are going to want to try and avoid that, and they're going to want to try and tell us, it's okay, actually this isn't too bad, I could stay here. But something that I find really helpful to do as an exercise is kind of imagine you kind of zoom out on your life and imagine you, if it's like 50 years in the future, right? Like 75, 80, you're looking back on your life. And from that perspective, just ask yourself, what do I wish I had done? And maybe the answer is like, oh, actually, I'm fine in this job. When I look back from that older version of me, actually, I'm fine. But if you look back on it and you go, oh, I really wish I'd done something different from that kind of imaginary older version of yourself, that is a sign that it really is time to make a change now. So once you've done step 1 and you have fully acknowledged, yes, okay, I do want something different, then you can really start to show up with this different energy that's like an all-in energy that's like, I am going to make a change. And that is when you move on to step 2, which is all about starting to discover what you actually enjoy. So when I work with my clients, my private one-on-one coaching clients, I call this a self-discovery. And we spend a bunch of time going into the question of, okay, well, what do you actually enjoy? Like, what do you enjoy? What are you good at naturally? And also, how do you want to spend your days? What kind of a life do you want to build? Because it's really important that if you're going to go and spend all of this energy on building a career, that it actually fits the kind of life that you want. I always say, like, it's not really that helpful training to be a doctor if you want to work remotely and only work 20 weeks a year. So if you're interested in doing this discovery process yourself, there is a free resource below. It's actually a resource that walks you through this whole career change process. Lesson 2 in that resource is all about discovery process. So go and take a look so that you can do that process yourself. from doing that process, you're kind of going to identify all of the different, I call them puzzle pieces, for what might actually give you a fulfilling career, right? What is actually going to be long term fulfilling, what you actually enjoy. So you've got all these potential puzzle pieces, and then you're ready to move into step three. And step three is all about designing. So you want to take all of those puzzle pieces that you had from step two and narrow them down. Notice the most important ones, the ones that resonate with you the most, that feel the strongest, and use them to find out. I call it like building painting, like building a painting of what is actually really important to you. So when I do this with my clients, and this is in the free resource below, we do this through four different categories. We identify the most important things that you're passionate about. I call it things you love, things that you're good at. So, like your natural skills and your learned skills, how you want to live your life. So, do you want loads of PTO? Do you want to be able to travel? Or do you actually want to be close to family? That is all really important for the kind of job that you're going to get. And then the final one is your personality. Are you introverted? Are you extroverted? Are you bubbly? Are you more serious? Those things are actually also going to have an impact on the kind of job that is right for you. So, narrow down the most important things that you find within those three categories. And from doing that, it's very likely that a few jobs that you're interested in will kind of rise to the surface. So typically at this point with my clients, they're at the point where they're like, okay, maybe there's 4 to 5 jobs that they're kind of interested in that are on their mind, but they're not sure if any of these jobs are actually right for them. So that's when you move into step four. And step four is where you go out into the world and you talk to people to find out what these jobs are actually like. When I was in my young 20s, I took on a job that looked really good at the time, but I hadn't talked to anyone who actually did it. And it wasn't until I got into the job that I realized you only get paid when your client actually shows up. And I was working with a client population, kids at the time, who didn't show up like 40% of the time. So I only got paid for like 60% of the hours that I was scheduled. And I know that if I had talked to someone who did that job, that would have been one of the first things they would have told me when I asked that question. Okay, what's one of the most difficult parts of the job? They would have said that you don't get paid when your client doesn't show up. So it is so important that when we're thinking about careers, we go out and we talk to people who actually do those jobs so we can demystify them and learn if that job's reality is what we actually want. And this is kind of the step where you learn the job that is actually going to be right for you. So by talking to enough people, two things will happen. Either you'll find out that this job is really a job that you want to pursue, or you'll learn that it isn't really exactly what you want. But by talking to people who do that job, you can ask them to recommend like slightly different careers to you. So, for example, if you're interested in being a nurse, you can go and talk to some nurses and you can say, like, tell me about nursing. And if you get the sense it's not right for you, you can say, okay, I really like lots of aspects of your job, but it doesn't feel quite right for me. Do you know any other jobs that are a little bit similar, that are helping people, that are in the medical field, but they're a bit different from nursing? And by asking that question, you can get recommendations for other people to speak to, and you can learn about different careers. And when you keep on doing that process, you will find a career that you're interested in pursuing further. So then I'm really kind of oversimplifying this because this process takes like months. Like when I work one on one with clients, we take 5 months. Okay. So I'm giving you like the super simple version of this. But when you've done all of that, you will eventually get to a point where you're like, okay, this is the job I want to pursue. You don't have to be 100% all in, especially if you are multi passionate or you're neurodivergent. There might be multiple different careers that actually would really fit you, that would feel good for you. But when you're at that point that you're like, okay, I do want to pursue this. It might not be the perfect thing, but I'm interested in pursuing this. That's when you're ready for step 5. And step 5 is where you network together as well. So, especially when you are a career changer, you might not have the absolutely perfect resume. And so, networking to get the job is so important. It's how absolutely the majority of my clients get jobs. I had a client who had an interview yesterday. That was from networking. I had a client who had 3 interviews last week. They were 2 of them were from networking and 1 of them was from a cold application. So most of my clients, this is how they get interviews and this is how they get jobs. And the way you're going to do that is by finding people who do jobs you're interested in. So let's say you want to be a project manager. Reach out to project managers who work at companies you're interested in working in and ask them for an informational interview. Have an informational interview with them, get on a quick Zoom call, whatever, have a chat with them. And then at the end of that chat, say to them, do you happen to know anyone who is hiring right now? And is there anyone else you recommend I speak to? And when you do that enough times with enough people, eventually someone is going to come along and they're going to say, yeah, actually, we're hiring. I know that there's a position opening up soon. Let me pass you along to our HR department, and they'll get you set up with an interview. That is how you get the job. So this is like a super concise version of how to successfully change careers, right? How to actually take steps forward. If you want more information on this, obviously follow along on this page to learn more, but you can also download the free training below because that's going to walk you through this whole process in a little bit more detail with exercises, with specific things to do. So if you're someone who is really interested in career change, like you're at that point where you're like, okay, I've been stuck in something I hate for too long now, like I'm ready to get out, then go ahead and download that. That'll be really helpful. Or if you want to get in touch with me, you can always book a free discovery call with me. That's the place where we get to figure out, a little bit more about you, if working together feels right. And there's the link for that below as well. Mwah.